Okay, so I could have given this video any number of titles. This one seemed as apt as any. Um, I came across a video on Sky News a while back by the writer, or featuring the writer Emily Hill. I'm not familiar with her, admittedly, but this was interesting because she was basically saying, and it was under a format called Points. Presumably, this is a series of videos that they're doing. But anyway, she said, and this is not an exact paraphrase, but more or less she said, modern feminism has got it all wrong. Um, Women need to stop acting like victims, um, and instead of focusing on everyday sexism, um, they need to focus on real prejudices. She also pointed out that women in the 20s and 30s are actually, on average, better off than men of the same age group. Um, this is always appropriate. I mean, yesterday there was yet another protest about women's pay, this time in Iceland. Um, I'm not going to go into great detail about that, but I will say that I think this is yet another issue that feminists blow massively out of proportion. The vast majority of jobs, men and women, are paid exactly the same. Where there are jobs that men may be paid more on average, I suspect it is because of a range of factors. If a man is doing more physical work, inevitably he's going to be paid more. There's a lot of other things within that to discuss. But anyway, that would just be going off on a tangent for another. Because the thing about this subject is there's so many different angles to look at it from. So I'm not going to attempt to address each and every single point in one video. Certainly, I've raised them in previous videos. I will say though, this feature by Emily Hill was refreshing, and it's interesting because at the end she said we feminists need to focus on these things. So she obviously considers herself to be a feminist. Now, this is the interesting thing. It's sort of an unkept secret that feminists are pretty intolerant of women who don't conform to their movement. But what this shows, the hostile responses from some women on that forum, only goes to show that feminists are not only hostile to women who don't conform, they're hostile to other feminists who don't, see the world exactly as they do. They're basically very intolerant people, and I'll put it out there. I think third wave modern feminism in the West is a very, very nasty movement. I do not like it one little bit. I don't like it as a man because of obvious reasons. It's constantly scapegoating my gender for everything. But I also take issue with the way it bullies other women, and it's just a thoroughly nasty movement. I don't see anything positive coming from modern third wave feminism the way it is. I wish more feminists were like Emily Hill. Unfortunately, I believe she is in the minority. I believe most feminists, and here's the thing, I don't believe that all feminists are bitter man haters. I really don't believe that. But I believe there are a lot of outspoken feminists who have a very bad attitude to the way they go about things. They insist that feminism is not anti male, and yet pretty much everything they come out with is blaming men or the patriarchy for something. So if you're blaming the patriarchy, by extension, yes, you are scapegoating men and masculinity and all the rest of it, because you're saying that the men control everything. Men have all the power. Men are privileged. That is scapegoating. No matter how you say it, that's what it is. And another point, this thing about very often when feminists respond to these sort of videos, they come out with things like, oh, you do not know the dictionary definition of feminism, or look up what feminism means, and blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing, dictionary definitions count for jack shit. What really matters is how a movement puts itself forward. You could look up the dictionary definition of communism, and it would sound very utopian and nice to a lot of people. Doesn't mean that communism, de facto communism, was a good thing. The same with feminism. I really, really do believe movements should be judged by their actions, not by their dictionary definitions, because dictionary definitions are the pure form of the movement. They're the ideology. An ideology, pure ideology, is very different from how a movement enacts it. You know, the ideology of feminism, very few people are going to disagree with that, equality between men and women. So true egalitarians, people who really do believe in that principle, such as myself and others who are critical of feminism but not opposed to women's rights, that's why they reject modern feminism, because it is not the dictionary definition it's supposed to be. Oh, it's just about equality. No, it's not. It's about constantly shaming half the human race. It's about demanding privilege. It's about demanding special treatment. It's about telling women that they're victims and telling men that they're oppressors. That is what modern feminism boils down to. And yeah, I'm fed up with it. So were a lot of people. But you know, if it was just feminism that was a problem, that would be, you could dismiss it as an annoying side movement. But what I do find unfortunate is that a lot of politicians and a large segment of the media pander to this. They pander to this divisive movement and they hold it up as being representative of a majority of women. It's not, actually. The majority of women do not think this way. And a large number of feminists don't think this way either. I would say more feminists like Emily Hill need to reclaim it. Because, as far as I'm concerned, okay, it's only a minute and a half segment, but listening to what she said, she sounds a lot more egalitarian to me than some of the feminists out there. So either, you know, I would never tell someone else how to identify themselves, but I would politely suggest to Emily Hill that she, whilst I agree with the things that she's saying, this is not how most feminists come across. And I think she knows that. I think that's why she made the video. So, you know, put it this way, if we really do live in a patriarchy where men have all the power, why is it so difficult to criticize feminism? Why is it as soon as you, whether it be a woman or a man, criticizes feminism, they're immediately shouted down? They're immediately told that they're ignorant. In the case of men, they're told that they're sexist pigs. In the case of women, they're told that they're subservient and they don't want to be. They see themselves as second to men. No, they don't. They just don't like to see themselves as a victim. So this is a deeply intolerant movement. And feminists can regurgitate the same old lines over and over and over again. Oh, it's just about equality and blah, 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 blah. When you shame a scientist for the t shirt he wears, when you demand that men are attracted to overweight women because it would be body shaming if they aren't, when you vandalize posters in the London Underground, when you tell other women that they have to call themselves feminists, when you say that we have no problem with men going to prison, oh, but women can't go to prison because they're women, do not tell me that you believe in egalitarianism, because those things contradict any notion that you do. I just refuse to accept that modern feminism, the way it is right now, has anything to do with egalitarianism. I think it's like the Mean Girls Club. You know, like you get in high schools, you get sort of the group of popular girls who like to pick on the girl that stands out. That's pretty much what modern feminism has become. It's a very nasty and intolerant movement. And that's not to say I think all feminists are nasty and intolerant. Certainly not. I have known feminists in my own personal life who are decent enough people and who I get on reasonably well with. You know, I don't talk to them at length about these issues, but, you know, I don't think they're man haters. I don't think they're bad people. I just don't agree with them that this movement is the right way forward. And I just think it's a real pity that so many politicians kind of join the bandwagon, especially male politicians, because they think it's a thing to do. I'm a proud feminist. You know, Barack Obama, Justin Trudeau, and Sadiq Khan are three examples. Now, they have a right to call themselves feminists if they want to, but I do suspect it's kind of part of the progressive trend. Like, to kind of get your progressive points, you have to call yourself a feminist nowadays. You know, people who truly believe in equality will see themselves as egalitarian. Not that I would impose that on anyone else. People could call themselves what they want. But I do believe that egalitarianism is far more honest in its goals than feminism is, at least modern feminism. So I would politely say, respectfully say to women out there, think for yourselves. I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm just saying think for yourselves. Don't feel that you have to call yourself a feminist just to prove a point. Because you don't. Think for yourselves. And if you really aren't opposed to men, if you really don't see, if you really want to, have self-respect and do things for yourself and so on, then don't pander to a movement that treats you like a victim. Feminists say they don't do that, but that's what they do every single day. I'm yet to see a feminist post or a news item about feminism that isn't about victimhood. Very, very rarely is it about, oh, well, women could do this as well as men can do. Or these are free minded, independent women who accept responsibility. The thing about prison, it isn't just throwing it out there. It's a valid point because the first people to complain about women being sent to prison are feminist groups who lobby to reduce their sentences. So this is a joke, a bad joke. Modern Western feminism is not about equality. It is one of the great deceptions of our age, a huge deception. And unfortunately, it does have quite a powerful influence on the media and in politics. They say that they don't, they do. And as a byproduct of that, anyone who questions it is immediately seen as regressive, as being opposed to women's rights. I will always speak up for women's rights. I will always speak up for example, women who are victims of acid attacks, women who are forced into arranged marriages, women who are blamed for rape when they are the victims. I will always, always speak up on those things, but I will never call myself a feminist so long as feminism represents itself with the toxic movement that it is. Now, some people might say, well, why don't you call it yourself a feminist and kind of reclaim it? Why? Because I believe egalitarianism covers is more wider. Because let's not forget there are issues that disproportionately impact men. I don't call myself a masculist for the same reason I don't call myself a feminist. I don't want to just pander to one gender or the other. I'm an egalitarian, and I'm happy with that, and that's what I will call myself. Um, and pressuring politicians to wear these silly T-shirts. This is what a feminist looks like. It's absurd. Apparently, whichever group was responsible for that, I don't know whether it was the Everyday Sexism crowd or another group, but they badgered David Cameron to wear that silly T-shirt 6 times. Thankfully, he refused. In Miliband and Nick Clegg gave in, probably because they are progressives and that's how they see themselves, right? But this is just not a tolerant movement. It's not, and I really wish that women would, and men for that matter, would really consider that you don't have to call yourself a feminist to be egalitarian. I've even seen the odd feminist saying, oh, you don't have to call yourself a feminist to be egalitarian. Thank you. I agree. Then speak to your sisters and tell them to stop pressuring people to call themselves feminists. Simple as that. Now, can anyone who calls himself egalitarian, can they really take issue with anything I've said in this video? Really? Can they point out any sort of patriarchal notion that I've come out with? No. Have I said anything that's male supremacist? No. All I have done is pointed out the many fallacies with modern feminism, and many people who think for themselves can see this. Unfortunately, large segments of the media and politicians pander to this, and they think that they have to pander to it to be seen to be egalitarian. Now, the BBC, you know, uh, the BBC is a pathetic organisation when it comes to these sort of issues, because they always pander to what they believe is the cause celebre of the moment, whether it be Islamophobia or feminism or whatever it is. They always pander to it. Sky News, I give them credit for showing this video. Um, Unfortunately, I don't know how much traction it's going to get. I shared the video around. But unfortunately, you know, Feminists say that they're the underdog. I don't believe that's true. I believe they actually have a lot of power and influence. And that's why it's so difficult to criticize feminism. Because anyone who does, especially if they're a male, will immediately be typecast into someone who's opposed to women's rights. And that's really sad. It's really sad that they have deceived people in that way. That if you disagree with feminism, you're opposed to egalitarianism. It's a great deception of our age. Okay, there might be the odd misogynist who does hate feminism because he's a misogynist, right? But they are in a minority, a big minority. The vast majority of men who don't like feminism, it's not because they want to keep women down. It's not because they believe women are second class citizens. It's because they are sick to high heaven of being shamed constantly. Feminists talk about body shaming. The real shaming that we are seeing in society is male shaming from feminists. And it's bullshit.